All right. Hi, Mac.
Hey, Elizabeth.
So this is Borderless Conversations, where we talk about traditions, etiquette, and various different aspects across multiple cultures. My name is Elizabeth Kilrain from Ouen Designs, and
And my name is Mac Kendema from Borderless Translations.
all right. So we're here with another mini episode. Last month was Valentine's Day. And so this month I thought we would talk about different romantic related holidays across different cultures besides Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I think a lot of people already know that, Valentine's Day is quite global, right? But, for the other culture or nation specific, romantic holidays, you may not know so much about it.
Mhm. So, what other holidays are there, especially this month in Japan, where you are, Matt?
So right now, it's White Day. So before you get up in arms, right? White White Day is considered a day 1 month exactly after Valentine's Day. And so the main difference between Valentine's Days and White Day is that with Valentine's Day in Japan, it's mostly the women giving gifts to the men. And then 1 month later, they're expected to reciprocate that gesture. So that is kind of how it works in Japan.
So, when you have this like expected women to give, like how did that start? Because I know like Valentine's Day, I mean, granted, Valentine's Day in the West is very kind of commercialized anyway. I don't think most people really know or care about like the tradition of Saint Valentine or any of that like that. Um, But how did it start in Japan, both Valentine's Day and White Day? And is it just as commercial as it is in the Western world, like flowers and chocolate and so on?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the nice thing about Japan is that when it's a foreign holiday, you can kind of guess the route on how it got there. So it became popular in America, and then somebody was like, "Hey, this looks cool. Let's bring it over here." And then, of course, they knew the men wouldn't like it, so they probably tried to sell it to the women, and they're like, "Oh, I would love to express my love for my man." And then, all the American women are just like, "What? No, no, you're doing it wrong. You're doing
We do it here.
um, but then, it got more and more popular because it's just a nice way to confess. So, in Japan, typically it's women have a tendency to confess I guess their affection or their interest in men, right? So usually Valentine's Day is a great opportunity for the ladies to, get a chance at the guy that they've been crushing on. So that also added to the holiday. Now White Day, right? How White Day came about was that a marketing company wanted to, capitalize on, just Valentine's Day, right? They're like, oh, well, okay, if the women are always buying this, making this, right? We can make money to, sell our marshmallows 1 month later for the guys, right? Because, women love marshmallows, so the guys will just buy it up. And, I don't understand the thought process, right? But hey, they believed in themselves, and you should too, right? But no one did. And so the first year, the first year did not go well. And that company did not, have the expected results that they wanted. But following the past next years after that, right? It started to get more and more popular because the women were like, "Hey, this is, how come we're not getting anything, right?" So, and of course, once that happened, then there was no turning back. So that's the general history.
Got you, got you. Is it always marshmallows? Like, is that the thing that's stuck, or is it now just sort of anything besides marshmallows? Because I'm like, I can't imagine that women every year are like marshmallows again. Joy.
The no, because that's why it failed because they decided to choose marshmallows, right? Because who in the right mind would want to like receive or give marshmallows, right? So it's so it was so yeah, so now it's just chocolate, right? So most of the men would just give back chocolate the same way.
Hmm.
White chocolate is very popular on White Day, right? So and another thing I should add is that on Valentine's Day, there is romantic chocolate and there's giddy chocolate, right? And giddy chocolate is basically means obligation chocolate. So the women have to because they don't want to make some of the men feel bad, right? They and I think this is mostly for like work. I'm not 100% sure for
Oh,
maybe sometimes it's in school as well, but you don't want to make your classmates or your coworkers like feel bad, so you also prepare like obligation chocolate to hand out to the dudes, so right, and so then on White Day then they also receive it as well, so
got you. I wonder if they're like, which one is this? Like, is this their? Because I mean, like, I feel like that obviously those labels are intent, right? You're not labeling
mhm.
like, by the way, I'm only giving this back to pay you back for what you gave me last. It's like, no, this is for everybody.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? That adds on to the drama of Valentine's Day, White Day, because you're like, is this person giving it to me because they like me or because they feel sorry for me?
I feel like that combined with the layers of etiquette in Japan can make it very
Mm,
complicated because you have these settings like you mentioned, workplace or school, where like your face and your reputation is everything, and even if you're confessing something, your confession's got to be like very proper through formal channels. You're not just
yes,
casually like, oh, this is a person I know, like outside of any kind of formal environment, and just being like, oh, hey, hi, and there's no like social safe space. It's like, no, no, now you're presenting, and like the workplace gossip mill and your school place gossip mill is all churning at full speed. So you're having to present in a way to save face, but also not give the wrong idea. And there's just so many complicated,
layers.
complicated layers. Yeah, for sure. Um, gosh, I'm I wasn't intending to go to this right now, but that actually does remind me. I only found out about this maybe 2 years ago from my girl
Hmm.
Nikki because she follows a lot of mainland Chinese media and shows and stuff like that too, because Netflix has been buying up a lot of shows from mainland China. And so
Oh.
she's like, Happy 520. And I'm like, what is 520? And apparently, and this is not like throughout the Chinese diaspora, because there are
Hmm.
more traditional Chinese romantic holidays besides Valentine's Day and besides this, but this is specifically like an internet Chinese Valentine's Day specific to mainland
Hmm.
China. So apparently there was a Taiwanese singer who released a song, and that song sort of caught on to like, and 520 in Mandarin like is kind of a pun. So it's like 520, which you can sort of fudge it to sound like 我爱你, like I love you.
Oh, I see.
But it's 2 days. So it's like 520, so 520 and 521.
Hmm.
And 520 is supposed to be guys expressing they love a girl. And then 521, like if they respond and they give back a gift, then it's either like the I accept or the obligation, kind of like the obligation return gift. So it's like 520.
Yeah.
And I think that because again, this is a internet slash commercial thing, people don't take it that seriously, but some people really do. They're like, no, 520 is for the men to express. 520 women is for the women to express or reject or express out of obligation kind of thing.
Hmm.
But there's been really cute little puns and things online. That about it. I'm going to link it later, but I saw this little video of an artist who, sketched out like in using blocks, like sketching out numbers. It's like, 20520, 9420, 59420. And 20 is like Erling. So it's supposed to be
I
like
see.
me, love you. And it's 520. 520, 我爱你, like I love you. And it's like
Hmm.
9420. 9420, so like 就是爱你, I just love you. And
I
then
just love you.
like it's just like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I just love you. And then like the very end is like 59420, so it's like I just really love you, something like that. And it came out in a pyramid. I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. Like this is one of those things that definitely has to be one of those internet age pun things, because
Mm,
it's very reminiscent of like everyone with their like hacksaw screen name handles of something eight,
yep.
or whatever else like that, where you're like, it looks like this or it sounds like this. K with the number 8 as like Kate, and things like that. Yeah.
Pretty
So
cool.
yeah, and but yeah, on the theme of the like, one party does it and the other party is expected
Hmm.
to respond for sure.
Yeah, I have to talk to some of my Chinese friends about that then, because I think it'll be because I think my Chinese friends really like appreciate it when I bring up random like Chinese facts that I learned somewhere else.
You're like,
Like
can
just
we
the
hear
other
about
day.
this?
Yeah. Just the other day, I was talking to a Korean guy, and he's very passionate about on Hangul, the written system,
Mm,
and he's like, I am a Hangul evangelist. I was like,
gotcha.
wow. And I was like, you know what? You know what I know? Yeah, I know. It was a very interesting meeting. I was like, you know what? I know about the writing system. Yeah, that was back in the day. The king developed that for people who are illiterate, and his face just started lighting up. I was like, yo,
Things are very
he's
passionate
like,
about, yeah.
he's like, I was like, yeah, I watch a lot of webtoons and Korean dramas.
Right. And then especially like you get so many shows and webtoons and things set in like the Joseon Dynasty, because that's supposed to
Hmm.
be considered like one of the heights of the development of Korean culture, especially as a separate entity. Because I feel like before that it was always like, oh, this was under China, like as a vassal state type of thing like that. Whereas like, no, certain customs developed in Korea during that dynasty is specific to Korean. And so it's like something that
Yes.
you very much be proud of. And it's like period of prosperity before war and like Japanese occupation. So like, there's just a lot of things in there. So I do want to get back to like more traditional Chinese um stuff after this, but so we have Valentine's Day, we have White
Hmm.
Day. I know Korea also celebrates White Day, but I was also told by friends that Korea celebrates Black Day. So it's like one
Black
nice day
Day,
and one
yeah.
nice not that kind of Black Day.
Darn.
It's like all negative connotations. But in the West, I think that in England they have like an official day for like Singles Awareness Day, which is sometime in May. It's funny, it's just like
Hmm.
February, March, April, May. Um, but in this case, it's not Singles Awareness Day in a celebratory sense. It's like Black Day. It's like we're going to commiserate together that we're single, and they eat like a bunch of black things. And one of the traditional things they eat is black bean noodles. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation. I think it's like sazangmyeon, but it's loosely based on a Chinese dish, so it's considered like a Chinese Korean hybrid type thing. Jiajiangmian, which is a heavily sauced black bean kind of noodle. It's very
Mm.
heavily flavored. But in Korea, this one is more seafood based, and in China, that's more usually like pork or beef based, I think, like that.
Hmm.
But like the idea is like you're eating like these black colored things to commiserate your single status. And I looked at some studies and they're like, oh yeah, sales of black coffee during this day is like really high too. So I'm like, it feels like a lot of these things originally had maybe like a very sweet folklore to it, but has more or less become commercial traditions by this point. It's like, or, granted, I'm pretty sure like the sales of black bean noodles and black coffee just kind of happens to be a byproduct, and it's not like heavily marketed by restaurants that make black bean.
Hmm.
But it's kind of cute where I'm like, oh, this is a comfort food. So beyond flowers and chocolate, you also now have black bean noodles as a holiday food that's consumed during these like romantic or anti-romance holidays.
Yeah, I never knew that beforehand because I would go to Korea very often, and then my friend would like be like, "Oh, Mac, have you had black bean noodles?" And I was like, "I haven't," and like we would eat it, right? But it would always be like the bros though, like I, so I'm just like, huh. But I don't think it was during Black Day that we were eating this. It was just like, yo, this is some good
Delicious.
stuff. But I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and it's such a comfort food. Like I know I've had both jjajangmyeon and jjajangmyeon and it's like it's hearty, it's flavorful, so I'm like I
Mhm.
would happily eat it all the time. And if you give me a day, that at this point, like for me, it would be no different than saying like it's National Pie Day, it's National Donut Day. I was like, more opportunities to eat a thing I really like. All right, like, are you single? Are you commiserating with us? No, this is just really tasty.
Bro, this is the life I live. I don't.
Right? Like, just add it to the holidays and stuff like that too. It's like, oh yeah, what gift do you want for White Day? Just give me black bean noodles. Wait, but that's for it's fine. It's fine. Just buy me food. Food is love.
Food is love. Most of the time, yes.
If it's bad
So
food, you
yeah,
might just reject it.
you're like, nope, nope. So
Um,
you have Valentine's Day, like you said, White Day, Black Day, and I think that's it for at least in that like sequential order. And then there's also like Christmas. So Christmas is considered a very romantic holiday in Japan. Yes.
cool. I know in China, so back to the more traditional ones. So they do celebrate Valentine's Day because it is so, international and kind of commercialized now. But
Hmm.
there's also uh 七夕and 七巧. So there's a traditional folktale, and there's many variations of this. So this is the one I was told as a kid. I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure, like, if you go and look it up, you can find different variations. But it's the story of Niu Lang and Zhinyu. Niu Lang literally means cowherd, and Zhinyu means like
Hmm.
weaver girl.
Oh,
And
I know this. So this is like Orihime, and then okay.
hmm, I don't know.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah. The Weaver girl and the I think
Yeah,
where
so
they're separated by stars, right?
right. So
Okay, okay, okay.
there's I think it's like uh altars or something like that
Yep.
and Vega, like
Hmm.
the two stars. Um and those are supposed to be represented. So it's very much like a Romeo Juliet star-crossed lovers type thing. The cowherd was just a normal poor cowherd. There's different stories that say like, he was kicked out of his house by like his brother's wife or whatever else. But there's also um less savory versions of this tale. But generally speaking, it goes that the cowherd stumbled upon seven fairies or
Hmm.
celestial beings bathing, and some versions say that the ox told him to do it, like his ox just magically started speaking, and then there's some versions he just decided to do it because he was a mischievous person, that he stole all their clothing. And so
Hmm.
not having their clothing, they were unable to go back to heaven, so the seven sisters um, asked their youngest one, who was the weaver, who also happened to be the most beautiful, to go look for their clothes. And when she went to retrieve her clothes from this cowherd, because he had now seen her naked, she accepted his proposal for marriage. Kind of like you know, this is the only way to cover up my shame type of deal. So like as with a lot of traditions, when you listen to the origins, when you think about them, like, I'm not sure this is that romantic, but okay, we'll
Hmm.
continue. So they apparently did fall madly in love and they got married, and she was a wonderful wife, and they had two, beautiful children. But when the Queen of Heaven slash, the Jade Empress slash, whoever, also like,
Hmm.
the divine being, which in some versions was the mother of the seven fairies, um, found out about this, she was very upset because your divine beings are not supposed to marry mortals. Um, so she ordered this weaver girl to go back to heaven. And
Hmm.
obviously, the cowherd is human and he can't fly and can't access the celestial realms. So he is very heartbroken. Um, and his magical talking ox told him that if he killed it and used its hide, he could wear the hide and it would give him powers to fly up to heaven. So he did that. He wore the hide and he flew all the way up to heaven with his two children to retrieve her. But
Hmm.
again, the Jade Empress was so upset that she, struck and made a river splitting the heavens apart. So that's actually your Milky Way galaxy. And so the two stars, like the two now in heaven, but are there as stars,
Mm-hmm.
are fated to be on the other side, opposite sides of the river from each other, looking at each other. So, but once a year, out of pity for their poor state, a whole bridge of magpies will form, allowing the lovers to meet across on that bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, like, their tears of joy at being reunited is your summer showers every year. So, it's called Qi or Qixia because it's seven. So this is supposed to be the
In
seventh
August.
of the seventh lunar month, which is kind of shifts around a little bit, but generally speaking,
Mm-hmm.
like in the August range. And that's the romance story. So again, like knowing like he stole her clothes, he kind of blackmailed her into marrying him. I'm not sure so romantic, but it is a folkloric love story that gets celebrated. So people will also exchange gifts on those. But it's also like one of those stories that every child learns about. So
Mm-hmm.
it's one that everyone knows really well, kind of similar to like the moon goddess one with, the hunter who shot down the nine sons and then,
Yes.
so like there's these things that are kind of embedded in Chinese folklore and obviously historically because China was like an empire all over a
Mm-hmm.
good part of Asia, then a lot of versions of this folklore went over to Japan and went over to Korea, but also went through Southeast Asia through Chinese diaspora into the South as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as soon as you started saying it, I was like, oh yeah, I know this. It's definitely not a romantic. I mean, it's a bit more romantic in the Japanese version, right? And it's Tanabata, right? And so, but it's almost cookie cutter, except for that, there's no shame involved. There's no the guy stole everyone's clothes, but I mean, basically, it's the same where it was just like he needed to gather these things, right? Because they had lost it. And I don't remember exactly the story, but it was definitely a bit more like, oh, like I don't know. It didn't seem so like vengeful like
Creepy.
the Jade Emperor, where it's just like, yo, I don't like you guys. It was something else, but yeah, it's definitely, I guess you can consider it more of a romantic holiday, but in Japan, it's not really I guess the folklore is romantic. The actual holiday, people, what they do it is that is for wishes, right?
Okay.
And so what they do is that they have like a squirrel, and then they'll write on it, and they'll hang it from a tree, right? And that's because only once a year the two couples can meet, and that's their wish, right? And so
Gotcha.
everyone puts their wishes or their desires on a little slip of paper and onto like a tree to be like, oh, I also want my wish to come true.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Um, I know Japan, as far as beliefs, you have, a mix of you have people who practice Shintoism and you have people who practice Buddhism and you also have like folkloric traditions, but you also have people who practice a mix of both because I think mix of all of them because similar to Thailand and various places, a lot of times even a straight up religion kind of gets integrated with local customs.
Hmm.
Are there particular sort of like places that are known to be like very sacred or very auspicious for like people wishing for romance or wishing for like a husband or wife or something like that? Like, are there particular places or particular days that are considered like really important to go to a particular place and practice something in order to get their wish or desires granted?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. So typically there's, many gods in Japan that people believe in, right? So there's a money god, there is, a fertility god, and so there is like a god of love.
Mhm.
And there is a shrine, I want to say there's probably various different shrines and temples, but I know in Tokyo it might be the Kanto. I can't remember the exact name, but what happens is that if you go there and you pray to that God, and then you're supposed to be able to find that person who you imagined during the prayer, right? And
Oh,
so those kind of things are very popular. And then of course, you know, there's like the not the less traditional ones, and more that people are just like, oh, if you do this thing for, then you can find your true love. Like there was a myth, not a myth, but like people say that during Valentine's Day, if a woman takes a strand of her hair and put it inside the chocolate and the man eats it, it makes it more likely for him to to fall in love, because they're like, because it's a part of her, and they're so it's but sometimes like they take it a
it's
little too
definitely
seriously.
more sanitary than spaghetti sauce. Anyway, that's a audience, if you catch this reference, comment in down below. I'm not explaining that in our video, but you can look this up in especially West African and Caribbean cultures. Anyway.
But yes, you can imagine that, yeah, there are specific temples, holidays. There are like certain charms that you can buy to, help your chances, right?
Gotcha. I know that in Thailand, a lot of times, well, I mean, again, because Thai Buddhism is a mix of sort of local folklore and animism, plus Buddhism, like a specific version of Buddhism. So, like, you depending on whether you're more folk tradition oriented or that oriented, a lot of times this, and a lot of times this isn't even necessarily romantic. This is more parents being like, when's a good time for my son to finally get married? Like it's, we're praying for grandbabies, it's about time he starts a family. And so they'll consult this, and monks will tell you like, oh, do this, or based on, or if a couple is already together but they, it's not a good time for them to get married yet, they'll go and consult a monk, and will tell based on a mixture of astrology and prayers and this and what's good, like what's the optimal time for them to get married so that the marriage will be
Hmm.
full of blessings rather than full of like struggles and strife and all that. But from the more folkloric tradition, a lot of times you would consult a medium, and the medium may also use things like astrology, like position of the stars and the sun and all of this stuff, but also with consulting the ancestors. Like the ancestors say, like, you were fated to such and such because, again, there's that plus a belief in reincarnation.
Hmm.
So, you don't, you may be fated to be with each other with your soulmate, but you only in certain lifetimes and at certain times will your two reincarnations manage to meet each other. And from that perspective, you're kind of screwed if you meet someone that you have someone that you're meant to be with, and you end up meeting up and settling with someone you're not meant to be with. So it's like, oh, sorry, not this lifetime, next lifetime we'll try again and see if you guys get to meet up. So there's kind of things like that. But, I do feel that belief in these things is not
Hmm.
that strong. Like you have plenty of TV shows about it, but I feel like a lot of times those come more from the perspective of like, don't forget the old traditions. You might scoff at it, but it's really important. Whereas most young people now just celebrate the commercial holidays like, hey, I like you. I bought you a thing. Yeah. And it's when you get older and a little bit more cynical slash a little bit more desperate is when you start to consult like, you know, I'm getting to this age. I should be starting a family now. I still don't have any prospects. I, spent all these years building my business. I'm way too busy to
Hmm.
do such and such. Let me get some extra divine help. And so it feels more like Lucky Charm type traditions than anything else. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Because would you say it differs between men and women?
Mm, I feel that it does, but not necessarily in the way you would normally think. Like it's not like, oh, men tend to believe this more and women tend to believe this less.
Hmm.
Um, it's more like, I mean, I think like as far as demographics go, like whenever which both groups at some point get desperate enough or needy enough that they're like, okay, well, I'll try anything. Um,
Hmm.
I find especially if it's more prompted from the parents in a couple type situation, it'll be like the mother who's more like, remember to do this, it's very important. And the father's just like, oh yeah, we already consulted the monk, we have our advice, what else do you need? But like, the whole follow-up thing is women tend to be more keen on like, make sure you do this correctly, make sure you do follow up. It's like, make sure you take your medicine like clockwork on time. If you those things will be very bad. Whereas men is more like, okay, we got our advice. Whether or not I choose to take the advice 100% is that kind of deal. So I think that's more of the case. But I think that, it is modern days. So more people are likely to consult like a matchmaker or go to speed dating or, whatever kind of meetups than they are to consult a monk or a medium unless they are actually quite deeply spiritual.
Yes.
Like it's more like the parents will do that as extra, like on behalf of my son, please make sure he finds a good woman, or on behalf of my daughter, make sure she finds a good husband. And the young people are more like, all right, so what's the next speed dating thing I can go to? What's the next, to find my person if they get to that point? Like they'll probably do that more than they would. They might even be very religious, but they'll go to the temple as a normal routine. Like they'll give alms, they'll pay respects, but not so much to like explicitly pray for a partner.
That makes sense. Yeah. I would say it's similar to Japan as well.
Yeah. Cool. We'd like to hear about any of the traditions that we don't know about, or any variations, because I know between countries and cultures, you also have many regional practices variations, or like any traditions you guys have in your own families and friend circles around sort of expressions of romance and romantic holidays. So let us know in the comments.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. And come around April, right? We might be eating some black bean noodles together. So
That's
we'll
true.
keep an
That's
eye
true.
out.
So,
Let's commiserate together.
right. My name's Elizabeth from Ouen Designs. You can see all of our social media links in Mac.
And my name is Matt Kendema from Borderless Translations. And please hit the like button and subscribe.
Right. So we see you next time. Thank you. Bye. สวัสดีค่ะ